Good morning. I am in a freezing Cape Town this morning, walking on the prom between meetings, and I wanted to share this idea around Cathedral Thinking. The Future Laboratory from London, one of the companies that I watch a lot, have shared this idea around Cathedral Thinking. But before I tell you about that, I see businesses every week that are retrenching staff, that are cutting costs, that are pitching at a frenetic pace, trying to keep business going in short-term thinking processes. This short-term thinking processes is actually killing the world. It's driven by profit over everything else, over the idea that employees need to be happy, that consumers need to be happy, but the fact that shareholders must be given the profit at the end of the month. This becomes a driving force for so many different businesses, and when shareholders are prioritized over everybody else, you can't be consumer-centric, you can't be employee-centric, and this whole idea that we have these values and missions that are so amazing, but the minute we don't reach sales targets, everybody in the business is in panic. Everybody in the business must act like a horny teenage boy inside a nightclub and run around and try and get anything they can. This idea around short-term profit is killing business in this day and age of innovation and requirement for business to start thinking long-term. So this cathedral thinking long-term idea is all about, in the old days, when you used to have a father starting to build a cathedral, it would take 2 or 3 generations for that cathedral to be finished. And businesses that are building brands on this cathedral thinking methodology are winning. Look at a brand like Amazon. Look at a brand like Patagonia Clothing. Look at a brand like Lush. These brands have all got long-term ideas around building thought leadership in their process, in their business, in their sector. And what happens when we apply ourselves in this long-term cathedral thinking, we get the opportunity for businesses, for clients, not to be sold to, but for clients actually to pull us into their business, into their lives. You see, when you get a client to pull you into their life, price becomes secondary, trust is already established, and all of a sudden, you don't have to sell anymore, you just have to share your thinking around the thought leadership that you've created. Cathedral thinking is this new term that we need to start adopting. Businesses that are running around trying to make sales at all costs, and end of the month it's all about rent and shareholder payments, are really starting to turn off consumers. We feel businesses that are driving this profit at all costs, and we are starting to get turned off by them. So when I see businesses that are panicking, and you can see it in their eyes, panicking, that are making sure that shareholders, if they don't get their profit, we're getting fired, and CEOs and people are getting fired on a quarterly basis because they're not reaching these short-term boy thinking ideas, it frustrates me. And it's not good for the environment, it's not good for consumers, it's not good for employees. And so we've got to start shifting our idea and our thinking into this macro patience and micro speed. That's from Gary Vaynerchuk. I was watching one of his videos. It's macro patience into creating this long-term curve and micro speed at getting things done. So I just wanted to share that. I think sales in this day and age have to shape differently in our minds. We have to change our idea about this idea that this long-term process is what we should be after. Building this long-term brand and trust with consumers and employees. When these businesses are purpose-led, you naturally attract employees, you naturally attract consumers. You don't have to keep pushing like a horny teenage boy in a nightclub. Anyway, thought I'd share that. Hope you're all well. Ciao.